Welcome back, guys. As we venture off onto our next tutorial, today we will be discussing shoes. And not those everyday casual shoes you may have on your feet right now. No, we will be discussing the very same shoes worn by Madara Uchiha. At least the one he's wearing in this photo here. But yeah, today we will be building what I call the Air Uchihas. These guys are super lightweight, proper ventilation at the toes for you sweaty people out there, and traction so good you can practically run up walls. And we can't forget about that Velcro opening for that easy slip-on action. Altogether, this is a sleek high-top ninja slipper design that'll help you become the ninja people said you couldn't be. With that said, the first thing you'll want to make, if you don't have one already, is this foam ruler. This helps tremendously with making accurate patterns for this shoe and any other future projects by accounting for the thickness of your foam. All you need is about a 1-inch strip of your foam, the longer the better, and use a ruler to mark your units to the precision of your liking. Now let's get the shape of our foot traced onto some gym floor mat as we get the custom size that we want for these shoes. With your handy new ruler, wrap it around your heel, surrounding your foot, and start tracing. You don't need to go any further than your toes since they'll be exposed to the summer breeze that just might make you feel fine. From here, we can start tracing the front of the shoe by keeping it nice and curved near the toes and slowly expanding out towards your previously traced lines. You may notice that the overall shape might not look like the usual shoe shape, so go ahead and adjust the lines as needed. I made it curve in a lot more at the inside of my foot and just a little bit on the outside, and made sure that there was a nice and even gap in front of the toes. But of course, I had a perfected version from the last shoe I made, so I'll just continue on with this one by cutting it out on the outside of the lines. If you couldn't tell, each sole has 2 layers to match the look of this shoe. So use this piece to trace the second layer out and flip it over for a mirrored version for the opposite shoe. These ones get cut on the inside of the lines. And now we move on to sticking these together with some good old barge cement. As always, use this in a well ventilated area, and it doesn't hurt to have a fan nearby to blow all those dangerous fumes away. And yes, I always go with at least 2 applications on each surface before the permanent bond of friendship that occurs here. You may notice a few uneven edges like I have on the left side, but to get it all smooth like I have here on the right, all we have to simply do is put this on a belt sander and run it all the way around until everything looks nice and flush. After a close look at what looks like my one and only reference photo, I see a lot of openings at the bottom, so we're definitely going to have to get some of those. After a quick measurement around the sole, what we're going to do is divide that by 17. Seems like an odd number, but it turned out looking pretty good on my shoe. So starting anywhere, make little tick marks that are, in my case, 1.5 inches apart. Now that we know where the openings happen, we gotta know what's going on in the bottom. And after an exhausting 2-second Google search, I could not find what the bottom looks like. So I decided to make my own traction lines. You could make yours like mine or draw up your own. I just made sure that each line extended out to every tick mark. And then these lines can be cut into about halfway through the first layer and then heated up until it all expands. And that's the bottom. To get the patterns for the rest of the shoe, I use plastic wrap, tape, a marker, and can't forget those scissors. Wrap that plastic around that foot of yours without cutting off your circulation, and make sure to leave enough room for the scissors to fit in there without cutting yourself. Then, add the masking tape around your foot while avoiding the bottom since it's definitely not needed there. Now, grab a marker and start drawing each part of the shoe onto your foot. I'll even throw in a 360 spin of the shoe for your convenience. And before you get too far ahead of yourself like I did, measure each line with your foam ruler to get the actual distances for each part. This is important since the foam will be a bunch thicker than the tape. If you don't consider yourself yogi enough to cut this off yourself, then go ahead and ask someone to help you. So once you get all these cut out, you're going to want to trace them onto a piece of paper. And you're going to want to leave space around each part to expand each of them to account for the thickness of the foam. I didn't film this part specifically, but this was a lot of trial and error for me. These right here are just a couple examples of me failing to find the perfect size and fit that I was looking for. So I don't want you guys to get at all frustrated when you don't find the perfect pattern right away. When comparing the tape pattern to the parts I actually use, you can see that the final parts are a lot bigger. I did modify the shape overall, but what's really important is how I added a little extra surface area here. I designed it to overlap and be held together with some Velcro. I also did the same for the ankle, plus a little bit more for some breathability. Moving forward, we can start gluing again. As you can see, the shoe looks like it has a very thin layer on top of it. To get this raised effect, add your glue, and when you stick it together, simply attach it higher than the rest of the shoe. The same thing could be done for the toes, and before we move on, we're going to up the comfort a bit and Dremel this area here and at the opening around your toes. If your foam's like mine, it could get pretty scratchy. You're basically just sanding off this really rough texture and making it a lot more comfortable for yourself. If your foam is a lot smoother than mine, then luckily for you, you don't have to do this step. Now we can add some glue around the edges of the sole and these sides here, avoiding the heel area since this is where the sliding in occurs. And then start attaching this to the sole, aligning the toe part with the edge, while the rest of it will be offset a bit to give it that multi-layer effect. I found it easiest to leave the ankle part last for gluing, so that's exactly what I did. Just because I'm getting a little antsy, let's add in the detailed cuts on the insides of the shoes. For the circle, I used a very fine point pen and grabbed the nearest thing I could to trace a perfect circle with and made a bunch of passes until I dug deep enough through it. The angled line leading up to the ankle was just a regular cut and then heated to expand. If it doesn't expand to your liking, keep in mind that you can always go back and cut a little deeper to open these up a little more. And now it's Velcro time. I tried to keep this hidden as best I could by putting it on the insides of the shoe, but since it had to be somewhere, the opening flap had the soft side of the Velcro and the rigid side will have the rough stuff, so it's least likely to scratch you when putting them on. The Velcro I got was a much wider than needed piece, so I stuck those together and cut it in half long ways, and then used the second half to give me that extra length to reach the top of the ankle. But they need to lay flush for maximum effort, sticking effort that is. So trace where this will be attached and remove this piece with a sharp blade. For the other half of the Velcro, I did the same thing, but cut into the foam a bit deeper since this was a lot sturdier than the last. And then once more we'll bring out that heat gun to help keep that rounded shape in the back. For the color, I used some good old Plasti Dip. I sprayed it throughout the shoe, hiding all the leftover markings, giving it that stealthy black look, and also giving it some pretty good traction. And there you have it, your own pair of Air Uchihas, done in a quick DIY minute. Hope this helps you wrap up your cosplay. Unless you're one of those people who like to work from the ground up, then check out last week's video on the tutorial of the armor. I've gotten lots of positive feedback since I posted that one, so I've definitely been enjoying reading all those comments, and I appreciate the warm welcome back. I mean, you guys just made it feel like I just came back home, and that's such an awesome feeling on its own. So thanks again so much for all your support, and I can't wait to keep the content coming. If you guys could just do me a huge favor and leave the thumbs up on the way out so other people can find my videos, that would be awesome. Also, subscribe if you haven't already. I have a lot more video ideas that I would love to share with you guys, so you don't want to miss out on those. But anyways, I've got to start planning the next build, so I will see you guys there.